At a lot of these city council meetings, at least that I've been to, and it probably is like this where you live, they'll say the Pledge of Allegiance right at the very beginning of the meeting, sort of call the meeting to order. Everybody stands up, they put their hand over their heart, face the flag, and just like in elementary, middle, and high school, they chant this pledge. They chant
the Pledge of Allegiance
prayer.
To the flag, yeah.
They chant this prayer to this idol of the flag, and I find it offensive. I will not participate in pledging to the flag. Typically I will remain seated during a pledge. What happened in this case, Mark, and where was it? Do you know?
Winter Garden, Florida.
Oh,
this is coming from the Sun Sentinel. Winter Garden Mayor John Rees asked police to remove a man from a city commission meeting Thursday night because he refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wow.
I just said, either stand or go in the hallway. He wouldn't, said Rees, 64, who was elected to a third-year term in March.
At least around here, they're smart enough to ignore this when people don't stand for the pledge.
It wasn't premeditated. I just reacted. It hit me. I said it. I gave him an option. Life will go on. Rees said he considered the man's refusal to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to be disrespectful to American military troops who are serving overseas and others who have given their lives in defense of freedom. And I would point out that one of the freedoms that they would have given their lives for
is the freedom to disrespect them.
Is the freedom. Well, it's not disrespecting them.
Well, I agree with that, but that's his interpretation.
Right. I don't know. Like, this is the thing I never really get is that the soldiers aren't fighting for the American government unless they're fighting for the American government. It's convenient. The flag isn't the soldiers. It doesn't say to the I pledge allegiance to this flag for the military men and women it represents. It says to the republic. And the republic is inarguably the government. Now, you can say what you want about the republic if that's what you want to do. We almost never use that terminology here in America. We say Republican, but we don't say republic very much. But it's the government. The republic is the government. And either you're saying that, I like the government or I don't like the government or whatever it is, whatever this means to you, but you can't really be slippery about it all. Disrespecting the flag. By the way, some people will say that, no, the flag is not a military banner. It is not a war banner, which is what I'll often call it. I believe that flags historically have been items employed by militaries, and only recently have they become so ingrained with a nation specifically. Well, when I say that, it's like, well, no, that's not what it is. But then really I'm disrespecting the troops. So which is it? Anyway, he says life will go on. The man was identified by city manager Mike Bolfager as Joseph Richardson, 51, who has repeatedly asked the city to change its invocation policy. According to the city's recording of the meeting, Rees asked everyone to stand for the invocation, which is a brief ceremonial prayer to reflect the reflection that opens the Winter Garden Commission meetings, and then
I have a problem with that too.
Yeah, well, I heard it, and it's definitely occurred. I don't think I have to, Richardson said while the crowd of 150 people stood
Wow, that's
waited.
A lot of people at a city council meeting.
Yeah, that's a lot. And with Richardson seated, the commissioner, Bobby Olswinski, offered the invocation, asking for a blessing on the citizens and the city staff. We thank you for allowing us to be in a country where we're free to believe and think and pray.
Did they really say that right before they threatened this guy?
Yep. And after the prayer, Rees addressed the seated Richardson. Now, sir, please stand while we do the pledge. You don't have to say it, but please stand, the mayor said. While Richardson didn't rise, the mayor spoke to police chief George A. Brennan. Chief, ask him to either stand or please escort him out till we get through with the pledge.
It's crazy.
The police chief approached Richardson and asked, what are you going to do? Richardson then rose and left. He was not arrested. Though Rees said that he did not know Richardson by name, he recognized him from previous meetings as the man who sits in the front row and then leaves.
Something had to be done about this. This man.
So look, check it out. He leaves after the invocation and pledge. He doesn't come to the meetings because he cares about the city.
Wait. There's a suggestion that he actually goes in there to remain seated while in the front row of this.
Well, as an adult,
thing?
You can't just find yourself a public prayer or a public pledge very often. I mean, the last time I was in a situation where I felt pressured to stand for the pledge, it's been more than 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's just not something that I find myself. Maybe I'm wrong on this.
Been to a council meeting, huh?
Maybe I just am not paying attention because I
Okay.
certainly won't stand for it.
Yeah, I won't either. And like I said, there's around here they're smart enough to leave it alone. I mean, if there were 150 people in this event, it's not like the guy is going to stand out if he stays seated during the pledge. It sounds a lot like what happened to me and Sam Dodson and another young lady a few years ago, actually 2010 was when this happened. The drinking game here in Keene, where we were in the city council chambers drinking from brown bottles that had labels removed from them and filled with water and new labels placed on them that said "not a beer." And just like in this story, the mayor stops the proceedings 10 minutes into the event, or 10 minutes into the council meeting, and demands that we either leave or hand over the bottles to the police chief. And the police chief comes up and he tries to grab my bottle from me, and I refuse to allow him to do that. I told him I will not be consenting to a search. And then he told me I will need to leave. I will either need to consent to a search of the bottle or I'll need to leave. And I told him I'm not leaving. This is a public meeting and I don't have to consent to a search. So I was arrested for disorderly conduct, and ultimately those charges were dropped a year later, right before trial.
Well, yep, that's kind of how it would go, right?
Yep. And, of course, nothing was ever done. I was never made whole for the several hours of lost time that
Sure.
the inconvenience of having to miss the show that night or whatever it was that happened as a result of me being arrested. And clearly they were in the wrong. Otherwise, they would have gone forward with their prosecution of me.
Yeah,
So
it seems obvious.
It's yet another example of using an arrest, or in this case, this man's story with the not standing for the pledge, the threat of an arrest,
And this
simply to get someone out of the way.
And this is something that the police will say. They've got this saying, I guess, is that you can beat the rap, but you can't beat the ride. So you can beat the case, but you still had the inconvenience of being arrested, taken to jail, and all these other things.
And having a damn bail conditions over my head for nearly a year.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.